Alright, when I went onto YouTube before I bought both of these mice, I was looking around and I couldn't find a video comparing them, which was a little bit surprising because they're pretty similar mice. You know, they're both small, and both of them can be used for a variety of grips, being all of them, fingertip, claw, and palm. And this one a little bit more common because it's from a more reputable brand. This one's from China, you know, and not a very well-known brand. However, they're still very comparable mice with top features. So I was a little bit shocked to find that there was no video. So I decided I would go out here and make one. Start it off. We'll go over the specs for them. The Hati S has a price range from $80 to $90. This depends on where you're looking. Depends on stock availability on Amazon. Usually they are stocked on Amazon. I will say if you go to buy this and you come across the HTS Classic, to not buy it because that comes with the 3360 sensor, whereas the HTS Ace Edition comes with the 3389. So that's a much better option for you to go with, and there's really not a significant weight difference between the two. The M42 is going to cost you about $60. You can get it from their website. Shipping's not too bad for either of them. Both take less than 2 weeks to get to your door. Now, with the width of these, this is a very interesting thing to talk about, and I'll get into that later with the M42 and its particular shape. And this one has a width of 56 millimeters to 63, which it has. You can see here, it has quite a large range from a very thin portion to a pretty thick at the base of the mouse, and that really makes a big difference on how you end up holding it. Whereas the HTS is a little bit more streamline. It doesn't really kick out as much in the back as the M42 does. This has a width of 61 millimeters at its widest. Not sure what it is at the thinnest. Both of them are very similar, with 113 millimeters for length on the Hati S and 118 millimeters for length on the M42. Those extra few millimeters do make a difference depending on how you grip it, which is why I choose one of these mice over the other for fingertip, and one of them over the other for claw, and I'll get into that later. Height, 40 millimeters on the Hati S, 38 millimeters on the M42, really no difference there. 49 grams for weight on the Hati S and 59 grams of weight on the M42. Both of them are pretty low weight mice with pretty solid build quality. You're not really going to notice much of a weight difference. And if anything, I like to stick more in the 60 gram weight category because I find it gives you a little bit more stability when tracking, whereas a lighter mouse can end up being just a little bit more twitchy. If you're going to go with a fingertip grip on both of these mice, I would choose to go with the Hati S. Now, the reason for this is, like previously stated, the M42 kicks out quite wide at the rear, whereas the M42 stays pretty uniform throughout. And this is good because this really forces your grip for fingertip, your thumb, it forces it way forward on the mouse, and then you end up having nowhere to pull back because you're just going to be hitting that meaty portion of your thumb as soon as you start to adjust. With the Hati S, however, it's a little bit more rearward. You have a little bit more play in where you can put it because it's not as aggressive of a shape. So you can rest it farther back in there, and then that still gives you really good vertical aim with that shape. I definitely do recommend this mouse if you're newer, you don't really know what grip you're looking for, and you have smaller hands, because this mouse can do it all. You have the option to switch the back of these shells. Currently I have the low shell on, but this is the high shell, which is better for claw grip, for smaller hands, and this one's better for fingertip because the back hump's not really going to be getting in your way. I would not recommend these mice to be palm or clawed if you have larger hands. I have larger hands, so I can't really claw this or palm it super well. I can get my hand on there, but it's just not comfortable and it doesn't really feel good for me. So, in conclusion, if you're going to have a fingertip grip on your mouse, I would definitely recommend going with the Hati S, and definitely recommend finding the Ace Edition because you're going to get that top tier sensor. Now, if you don't really know what grip you're going to be using, this is just going to be your first mouse, you're not really sure, I would go with this because although it does have a slightly more aggressive shape, it is cheaper. It does have that top sensor, the 3389, and it's a little bit more versatile with the back swapping shell. You can just really fit a bunch of different shapes on there, and you can always just leave it off too, which I've used it like this before, which is nice because you can get your hand low, you can bring it back, and there's just a little bit less shell to be catching on your hand. Although it's not nearly as comfortable and it looks pretty stupid, it still is effective. You know, you're going to drop a few grams there if that's something you really care about. Now, I didn't really get into RGB too much in this video or at all because personally, I don't really care. I think that little green light in there is as much RGB as you need. However, RGB on this, you know, you can cycle through all these, and then holding this and clicking, you can change the color. Clicking the left click, you can change the speed. There's a lot of customization just through this one button on the top. Speaking about that button on the top, you cannot remap it to something else, which is a little bit frustrating because you can do that on the Hati S. And this button here comes to be pretty useful in certain games, depending on how button heavy it is. So it is a little bit frustrating to have that button there, but it not be usable. Alright, anyways, thank you for stopping by. This is my first YouTube video. Pretty rough, I imagine, but if you like it, I'll be making more mouse review videos. I've got plenty of mice, I've got plenty of mouse pads that I can talk about, and I'm excited to keep making more videos and keep talking to you guys. Thank you.